Okay, let's talk about a few site configuration things we typically recommend. So I'm just going to load up my test site here. So I'm on the applications tab now. So this is my test site that I set up when I bought the server or signed up for the server. So I'm just going to click into that and load it up. So there's a few things you want to do here. So number one, under domain management, you want to make sure that you have both versions of the domain. So in this case, I'm test.com. So I'd want to make sure that I have set up both test.com and www.test.com so they both work. So you don't just want to have the primary domain, you want to have both. So we want to have www.test.com as well. So we're using both of them. Let's give that a second. And then you want to set whichever one as the primary and then leave the others as the secondary. I'll just leave this default CloudWays hostname there for now. And then the other thing you want to do here with domains is make sure they both have SSL certificates. So again, here we want to use Let's Encrypt. So Let's Encrypt is a free cert, commercial grade, renews every 90 days. So that's fine for 99.9% of sites. And again, you want to do the same thing. So you want to add your email address. So I'll just add mine, brendan@wpspeedfix.com. Oops. Now the email address will be used by Let's Encrypt to send you emails if something goes wrong. So, so we want to add both again. So www.test.com. Oops. Test.com. Helps if I can type and add them all in. So add all the variations in. If you don't add the variations in, they won't have SSL certificates, and that might mean that people get security errors when they load up that variation of the domain. And then click install certificate. It'll take 90 seconds to do it, so I won't do it now for the purpose of this video. But that's important to do. So add all domains in, all variations, SSL certificates for them all. And don't use this apply wildcard because then they're not going to auto renew. You're going to have to update DNS records on a regular basis. Okay, other things that you want to do in here. Let's look at SafeUpdates. So SafeUpdates is a paid add-on from CloudWays. So you'll see this more and more around the web, automated updates for WordPress. They all basically do some version of make a clone of the site, take some screenshots of the clone site, install updates, take screenshots after the updates are done, and then compare the before and after and make sure there's no issues. Some systems will also check error logs and things like that, but it's a much safer way to do WordPress patches and updates. So if you don't have developer resources or developer on your team, this is a really good option there. It's a couple of bucks a month per site, and it will take care of all the updates. So typically we'd recommend it for most sites, especially small business sites. So I would go with that option. Otherwise, you're going to have to manually install updates. There's also Cloudflare integration in CloudWays. We would typically recommend not using this and going to Cloudflare directly. So there's a few different things you won't get here with the CloudWays integration right now. So you'll see here, this is all grayed out, but you'll see here full page cache. This is Cloudflare's APO service. This is really important for speed. So if you are doing a lot of paid traffic or you have very spiky traffic where you're doing mailouts, Cloudflare APO is a must-have, and it's not included on this service. You also lose some control when you use an integration or Cloudflare. If you use Cloudflare integrated with a web host, you lose a lot of control. So we don't want to lose control. We want control over things like the firewall and some of the Cloudflare settings. So we'd avoid using this unless you have a lot of sites where it gets actually quite cheap if you have a lot of sites. Or where you don't need that level of control. They're very basic sites, but we wouldn't use that direct integration. We'd avoid that. Other things here to pay attention to, bot protection. This basically installs a plugin called Malcare, so you may or may not want this. If you're using something like WordFence, you probably don't want to install this, but you want to leave this on by default if you're not using any other security settings or options. Other things, you can control the backups in here. And the restore. So if you want to restore, you can do it in there. I don't think we've done a backup yet, so there's no restore options, but you can take a backup just of the site instead of the whole server. So that may be important. Staging as well. You can make staging sites. So if you want to clone the site to testings, that's where you do it. And then various other settings relating to the site are in here. Some of these are security settings. So if you want to lock down the site and make it secure, you probably want to disable XML RPC. There's a few other things around here about SSH access, CORS headers, things like that. This one is probably the most applicable one here. But if you may have particular plugins that are a bit funny, that you may need to turn one or more of these settings on for. That's pretty much it. Everything else is pretty straightforward. I think pretty self-explanatory, but I just want to add this video on for those individual site settings.